So hello, Maria, and hello, Alberto here. We are actually creating this gathering to dive into how universe gets choreographed for us to even have the convergence we're having with three of us together in this capacity, creating a quantum collapse so that we can share some thoughts and ideas about universe, consciousness, and how it all comes together like the best symphony. And I'm just impressed with Alberto because Alberto is not just an energy healer, he's a counselor, he's an author, he's an inventor, and he's someone who dives into both science and spirituality like myself, which I really appreciate finding another person in the similar boat. And according to Maria, she always refers to Alberto as quantum physicist. So I'm very excited to see where this whole conversation goes between all three of us. And of course, Maria and I have been doing this conversation for all of you viewers. So you know that Maria just brings in incredible background and knowledge for her being so vested in healing humanity through her products, through her love, through her attention, through her time. And so here we are, and we're going to get started with this. So go ahead, Maria, if I missed anything, please fill in the blanks, and then we'll ask Alberto to introduce himself.
No, I'm actually really excited. I met Albert a few years back, and we became very close friends. It was very strange. It was an energetic match. I saw him online at one point, and I just, wrote in like a little comment, something about Native Americans, and he responded, and we've been talking ever since. So this was several years ago. I think our first conversation was like 3 to 4 hours. So, whenever you have that energetic or that frequency match, and we were able to talk about so many different things. Anytime that, throughout the course of my journey, anytime that I have, some strange question about, and this was before I met Shehnaz as well, any question about some very crazy dreams or some images or actually having visitors that I didn't expect, right down to, my body habitus, all kinds of things like that. I mean, Albert basically knows me from the inside out because, his journey came about quite a bit differently than what mine has. And I always, I will always actually message Albert before, anybody else. And I'll say, okay, here's one for you. This just happened, so that I, make sure that I'm still of sound body and mind. And so Albert can, either walk me through it, or better yet, walk my husband through supporting me. Because this has actually happened. Albert says, Maria, now you have to make sure that you're not going too quickly for him. And it's not any kind of a remedial thing. It's because of a different, just a different spiritual journey and a different speed at which certain things happen. Mm-hmm. But I have to tell you that Dwayne, my husband, loves every minute of it. So I try to, operate just like Albert sort of coaches me, and then we're good.
Yeah.
So that's how Albert and I met. I'm so excited to bring him here with you because you two have so much in common.
That is great. And it's kind of interesting, right? We're creating our tribe as we are all evolving and ascending and expanding, because there are times we're so in it that we need another person to give us a little bit of a helping hand. And I'm glad that Alberto has been that for you. And we are here creating our tribe ourselves. So I'm very excited. So Alberto, please go ahead and fill in the blanks where I have left out, because I just got to know you today for a few minutes and we hopped on this convergence. So please tell everyone about your journey and your passion.
Well, this is a time when there is an awakening among everyone in humanity. And some of us are trailblazers. Some of us started a little earlier. There are others who started earlier than we did. And the way I describe this is that this is almost like a suicide mission, because this is a prison planet where we come in without any of the tools that we developed in the past. All we bring is the love that we have inside, And with that, we connect with other beings who are very loving, and it always seems serendipitous. And I bring one Lego, and you bring one Lego, and Maria brings another Lego, and then together we build from that. And that is, I think, how we agreed to get past the veil of what surrounds the existence of humanity here on Earth. My experience is one where I have had multiple lifetimes, packed into a single one. So if someone from 20 years ago meets me today, they won't recognize me, because it's almost like for 5 or 10 years, I lived something, then another 10, 15 years, I lived something completely different. And it was just like jamming all this into this single life. And of course, I understand that the reason is because there's a lot of tools that we have to develop, and you have to have that experience in order to acquire those tools. In the same way, I have the characteristic that I'm very balanced between being artistic and also being rational. They say that we're either left brain or right brain, and at the same time, I also happen to have a very strong balance between the divine feminine and divine masculine. So I could shop as well as anyone. I can watch movies and start tearing up. The same way, I can also be very strong and very rational and very calm and collected under stress. And because of that, the life experience that I've had has taken me through a lot of paths. I tell my daughters that I failed more than anybody else they've ever met, because learning is always about being uncomfortable, and it's always about moving, and making mistakes and finding. For me, my awakening it had to come through science, because I was brought up with a very strong background on what I now call material sciences, what people call the laws of physics, Newtonian physics, Ohm's laws, all those things that seem to be what dictates what the universe is like. But then it never really painted a complete picture. And one day I had the urgency of learning quantum physics. And it was fantastic because at that moment, not before, I was ready to understand. And what most engineers who study quantum physics, what they experience is that they want to see everything from the perspective of matter and materials. For me, it just made sense that it was just energy. So I never had to look at it as let's say, and I'm going to geek out here a little bit. I didn't have to look at the electron to understand that there was a field behind it. I always knew there's a field, and it just happens to be an electron if we want it to be an electron, but it could be anything else.
Right.
So long as the field is there, we know that it has manifested, and so for me, once I made that leap, everything made sense. Spirituality. I was not spiritual. I was not religious. I was when I was younger, I felt disappointed with religion, because to me, I couldn't think of a God that punished people. I couldn't understand. I don't know if my connection is good or not, but anyway, so for me, once I understood that everything was energetic, I realized that the whole thing is energetic, that in order for us to see it, we have to manifest it. And I explained to people that, you have what we think is solid is really just my finger not being able to cross the other finger because of the magnetic fields they have. But in reality, that's just an illusion. We see colors. It has to do with the fact that we see only the light that reflects and not the other light. Therefore, we think it's green, right?
Right. The light color that we see actually is not the color that
That's right.
So it's an interesting perception, right?
That's right. See, yeah. So in essence, every single thing is energy. So now it all made sense to me. The source, God, whatever we want to call it, I don't have any problem across religions, because to me, as long as someone has a personal relationship with God, their God, I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? I don't have any problems, because to me, there is that source. We're all within this experience, and it makes sense from a scientific perspective, which it had to be for me, but it opened up the whole spiritual side. So when I look at this, to me, this is a beautiful dance. It's a beautiful waltz where everything has to come together. Your experience, we are at this moment, we're all co-creating, the three of us, and our experiences need to come together and resonate to, vibrate, have that energy vibration that matches. But it also has to match with our goals, why we're here, with our soul contracts, with the fact that we're on Earth, with the fact I'm in Florida, with the fact that it's the end of October. There's so many things that have to dance together. And it is just beautiful how it all flows in a way that no one notices.
Yeah.
It is the most complex thing there could ever be. And yet it's so fluid, no one tells. So for me, it's a beautiful story. Anytime I talk to anyone, the story of our experience is a story of love, because what we do is we manifest, we have free will, we create good or bad experience. It's all love. That's what I learned from, that's what it all came to me. Now, I did have a series of downloads. Once I opened myself, I downloaded, and of course, at the time I didn't know why, I downloaded about viruses, which I had no interest in the past. Suddenly I understood. I had downloaded cancer, I downloaded vaccines, I downloaded all sorts of different things, which now in hindsight, I know why. But it was something that came once I opened myself to it. It's like the Chinese proverb says, when the student is ready, the teacher arrives. Mm-hmm. And once I had my dark night of the soul, when I realized that my understanding of how souls worked, all those downloads that I received about why we're here, why, how the souls interact with each other, what is their goal, what is the goal of the person, then I realized that what I knew could affect people's free will. Therefore, I couldn't talk to anyone. In my whole life, I always learn things and I share them because I'm a natural teacher. And for the first time, I couldn't talk to anyone because I would affect their free will. I would change the outcome of their life if I told them what I knew. And I noticed that when I approached someone with the intention of talking to them about it, they responded in a way where they were almost like angry with me. People that love me and like me, suddenly they were like angry with me. And I realized that I'm making a connection with their higher self, was giving me the sign, no, you can't talk about this stuff. So what I did at that moment is I was very sad. I came home, I was crying. I told my wife, asked me, she said, what's wrong? And I said, I just realized that I understand so much that can help so many people, but I can't use it. Can't talk to anyone. And at that moment, I realized that the only way I could share it was cut off by opening to the universe and offering what I had. So I manifested that I wanted to share this, and I invited beautiful souls whom I could help to come to me. And that's how I met Maria, and that's how I met a whole bunch of people. And that's why it is so serendipitous. If you ask a scientist or what the probability of meeting, they'll always tell you that the probability of having that sort of, not only meeting someone, but building the relationship, it's almost zero. But it has happened to me because it is how the universe works.
Exactly.
It's how all these vibrations are. So for me, it's just confirmation of all those things that came to me. And I'm so, Maria, I think you're a beautiful soul. And every time I speak with you, I feel you make my day, because our connection is such that it doesn't matter what the conversation is. Once I connect to your energy, I just feel so good after, you know what I mean? And but again, it's part of how this beautiful waltz happens.
Yeah.
So that's my background.
Right. And I want to just share this whole thing when you said that if you go with science, then of course this convergence that we have may not be even possible. But the fact that there is such a bigger infinite world out there that creates the probability for people to meet, or even lovers to meet, or even friends to meet, or even like all the things that we sometimes only think about. And then when it becomes manifested, it's even way more amazing than we had thought about, right? That to me is where I'm so glad that that is how universe works, because I don't think that I would be as excited about life as I am right now if that wouldn't be the case. Because someone like me, like I prayed every single prayer. I have been a very devout Muslim, and I prayed 5 times a day, and every single prayer I would pray that I want to speak English one day, right? And in my case, speaking English was like an impossible feat. And if somebody would have said that, oh, you're going to write a book in English, and it's a very complex book, 300 page, and Maria can tell you that, I probably would have said that you're out of your mind. I can't even speak the language. How am I going to write the book? But I did, right? So to me, the universe has proven me so many times that you can dream and your reality is going to be even better than your dream. So,
Well,
You know what's funny is about and that kind of, I just want to talk for a second, you guys, about intuition and what intuition means in the, I guess the subject of the universe and the energy, because I think that more people are coming online to recognize this as being something as they can use as a power. I used to use intuition. I mean, I've used it my entire life and never truly understood like what I was doing. But manifestation and using my intuition to, to guide me, I did it without really knowing or understanding it. I was just very stubborn, and I would just say things like, if I want it to happen, it's going to happen. And I would think about it and think about it and think about it, until something came to fruition. And I would think about, well, how could I make this happen or that happen? Or what do I have to do? And it wasn't like I would write things down as goals, because of course I didn't do that. I mean, I'm an organized chaos type of person, but I learned how very powerful my mind was, and I didn't understand why. And when I woke up, Shehnaz, you said, thank God that it is the way it is, or I would be so bored, because I feel the same way. Oh my God, whenever all of these different realities coming, started coming to existence, or people were waking up to these things, I thought it wasn't scary to me at all. It wasn't hard for me to do an about face and go, yes, and grab onto something bigger that I didn't fully understand, because now I'm not bored. Now I know that, there is actually a silver lining, and it's really big and it's amazing, because now I know how powerful I really am and what our capabilities are. And I think I don't even know a fraction of what we are truly capable of yet. So then when all of this, energy starts pouring in and all these different things happen, and I'm thinking, thank God, God bless America, because it would have really sucked, to just live the way, you live and die to work, right? Everything is just a task or just a ritual, and it didn't mean shit. It was just, live to exist for another day. Not what it is now, which in my point of view, right from my heart, is live to manifest whatever you want, any single moment of any day, of every day, which is huge. And I know I just said a mouthful and, kind of went around the world, but I mean, I love the energy of the universe. I love that, that I'm not the weird kid anymore, because I would always say, Albert, I would always say, don't talk to me about religion. I don't want to talk about religion. I don't believe in religion. I believe that there's this universal spirit, and that something a lot bigger than me is helping watch over me and everybody else. And this is my God, and this is how I choose, to believe. And so I was always the strange, weird kid. I was drug in and out of, I've told Shehnaz before, like, I can't tell you how many different religions and churches, and trying to find my match. When was Maria going to behave? You know what I mean? Like, when was she going to behave and like not sit in the corner and just stare at people?
yes, it's funny that, the whole thing is that Have you guys watched the movie Free Guy? So that is pretty much it, right? Like either you are a program that is running your, the fact that none of us, I mean, I don't know about Alberto, but definitely I did not have any kind of normal life, like a, one husband and a one dog and a one child and all that good stuff never happened to me. But that is the only reason I've come this far, because if I would have had that perfect life from the get-go, I would not have the curiosity to understand that why my life sucks, which is the only reason I've come as far as this. But the Free Guy, the Free Guy to me was a great movie because it was funny because, he was always getting the exact same coffee every single day. And then once he realized he can actually change the coffee that he wants, the sky had no limit, right? And it's the same way for us, actually, when we start disrupting our patterns of just following the narrative that everybody else does, then we create a whole different fractal trajectory for ourselves that has so many possibilities. And it's very complex, but it's so much more beautiful. So
in that movie, he is an NPC, non-playing character who wakes up. So he has a rise of consciousness. He experiences an increase in consciousness. And the way, to me, we describe, you talk about an odd life, right? Well, it's kind of the same with me, right? And this is why I say I've made so many mistakes, but are they, sorry, did I miss something? Did you
No,
hear me?
your connection keeps just kind of glitching.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think I have the best connection, but we'll try.
It's
it.
okay.
So to me, no matter whether it's good or bad, to me, it's part of what it is. So, for example, I have a tuning fork here, right? This tuning fork has a specific frequency that it operates in. If I put another tuning fork at the same frequency, they're in harmony. They both vibrate. If the other tuning fork has a different frequency, this will not vibrate. In essence, is that we have to find that talking about the vibrations of the universe, we have to find that vibration that matches us. So one of the things I always tell everyone when I speak with them is follow your greater joy, follow you, be you. Don't be anybody else. Be you. Find out who you are, imperfections and all, and be happy with what that is, because it all has a purpose, whether we have the consciousness of understanding right now or not. Whether whether it doesn't matter if we know, because a lot of times our experience is packed in a way where it builds on one step to the next, and we can't see what's just behind the next wall, the next step, right? So we may not understand, but I sent you the pictures of the butterflies, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Can you share them?
Yes, I can do that right now.
So the monarch butterflies live all over the United States, specifically in the Midwest of the United States, and some come from as far as Canada. But one day, and these are butterflies that were born outside of Mexico. And so one day they just wake up and they just fly towards Mexico. And it happens to be a coincidence that tonight and today and tomorrow, all these butterflies are actually arriving to my hometown, where I come from. And so then you ask the question, why is it that they suddenly just one day, they've never been there because they were born outside of Mexico. Why is it that one day they just all fly there? They all unite from everywhere around the US, everywhere in Canada. Why did they do it? And of course, the scientists will tell you, well, the electromagnetic fields. The reason why is because they're happy. Because they're following their greater joy. You follow your greater joy and you're in tune with who you are. They're happy going there. There's literally a visceral feeling. They don't have to understand it. They don't have to comprehend. They don't have to plan for tomorrow. They don't have to know the past. All they need to know is that today I feel like flying in that direction. And they all do it. They do it time and time and time again. And it is the most beautiful spectacle. It's a sanctuary in Michoacan, which is where I'm from. And it is beautiful because it also coincides with the time when people in that place celebrate their dead, their loved ones. So as they're celebrating their loved ones, all these butterflies are landing. And so it just makes for this beautiful scenario, for this beautiful story. We don't need to, like the butterflies, many times we don't need to know. We don't need to analyze. All we need to do is follow a greater joy.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have experiences that are not pleasant, right? And that's when, like you say, we have a lifetime, and we have a, sometimes we wonder, why is it that I don't have the standard life? Why am I weird? I'm weird too. I'm an outsider. I've been an outsider all my life, but then you understand it's because that's what it has to be. That's who you are,
Exactly.
So you were talking about the fact that right now, a lot of people are experiencing, tremendous difficulty, right? Because of what's happening, whether it's because of the jabs or because of the shutdowns. I mean, just looking at any images of what's happening in China breaks anybody's heart. And I'm working with someone right now who was fully jabbed. This is a person who is extremely intelligent. It's a philosopher. And everything he has built, his whole existence, suddenly is hitting a brick wall, because he has all these spots all over his body. They look like giant pimples, right? And his immune system is being attacked from every direction. And he went to have liver tests, and of course they came out clear. He went to have immune system tests, and they came out clear. So the doctors have no understanding whatsoever of anything that is happening to him. And for him, he's an expert. See, an expert believes in the experts. So he's gone to the experts, who all probably went to university with him, and who all became well known in town like him. And now no one has given him an answer. I had to explain to him in this case, and I'm going to go, if you don't mind, I'll tell you a little bit about it, because I think it's very telling of what a lot of people are experiencing. I had to explain to him that, first of all, it's not his fault. This is not something he did wrong per se. It's something that I told him, I said, listen, if you had to be gone, there's no invitation. You just disappear, you just go, because that's one of the things that he has had to face, his mortality. I said, if you're worried about having to go, you would be gone already. I said, because the moment that you as a soul level, you choose when you're going to be born. You also choose when you can have an exit. There's different times when the resonance is right for you to exit. And if it would have happened, you wouldn't be asked. It just happens. Because those are big contracts. I said, but the fact that you're here tells me that that's not for you. The fact that you're here tells me that this is just part of that experience. And yes, it is tremendously difficult. You're a very rational person. But maybe, just maybe, I said, maybe think of it, I said, just as an adolescent, when children are little, their whole reality is about their person, is all about their family, the pack. Like Lucky, my dog, right? He loves the pack. Well, children love the pack. And that's why they say, oh, my dad has this, my brother has that, because their person is formed by that family. But when they grow up to be an adolescent, they discover that they're individuals. And at that moment is the moment of maximum insecurity, because suddenly they don't know anything about themselves. They're totally insecure. All they know is they don't belong to the pack. And now, of course, the pack members want to tell them how to dress, how to behave, mom and dad who love them very much, but that's not who they are. So they go through this tremendously difficult moment in time. We all went through it, but it's a change in consciousness. It's a rise in consciousness that we all have to go. We have to go from a member of the pack, just like ants, they're when they get together, ants build bridge, tremendous. Same way, you have a child who now is a self, it's an individual. Well,
Albert,
I said, pardon me?
Can I just ask you a quick question? I just interject. Did you discuss with him that part of that evolution and part of that healing is acceptance of what is happening?
Well, but this is why I had to talk to him from that perspective, because
Yeah.
I told him, I said, you're a rational being and you want the doctors to give you rational answers. I'm going to break your bubble here. I'm going to burst your bubble. I said, doctors are not trained for that. I said, doctors are trained to memorize.
Yep.
They're trained to follow protocol. They wear a scientist's lab coat just so that they look the part. It's like, so I said, but they're not, you have to understand. I said that whatever you're having, and I explained to him a little bit about how the immune system works, how it affects, it works with the liver, it works with the white blood cells, and how it is much simpler than doctors make it out to be, is that unfortunately that there's many layers to what these jabs can do, including affecting the immune system. The fact that it's reflecting on his skin, when our immune system fails, I told him, I said, that it sometimes it uses the skin to secrete whatever is not necessary for us. So, but don't punish yourself. I said, because you have to understand that this is something that you are in a state of dis-ease. You gotta understand he's very rational. So for him to listen to this is a shock. I said, you're in a state of dis-ease. You're not in balance. So you have to work on your balance. That means start with loving yourself, follow with forgiving yourself. At the same time, of course, you have to purify your body. You have to cleanse. You got to work on cleansing your liver, cleansing your kidneys, you got to cleanse as much as possible. And it's a multi-layer approach. I said, but it all begins with you, with the self. If your vibration is of not ease, if you're not vibrating to the highest energy you can be, if you're sad, if you're angry, if you're depressed, you're illness. And of course, this is, yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Your connection, we keep losing your connection a little bit. So I'm just going to ask Shehnaz really quick, because she also had Shehnaz, you had that experience, the white coat experience. And when Albert's talking about the fact that, from a physical standpoint, doctors are trained differently. If this, then that. They typically use flow charts, and they're very well trained in pharmaceuticals, not spirituality. And I know that, and Shehnaz, I don't know if this is where you wanted to share that, but it seems like a good segue into the recent experience even that you had, because whenever you are in a state of dis-ease, like Albert is talking about, it's very difficult to unchain your heart and your brain from an entire lifetime of pedestal syndrome, is what I call it. Okay. So, believing, Shehnaz and I had been talking, and I had a completely different evaluation of her than what, a white coat did. And, she had to take this entire spiritual journey and, complete it and tie the knot at the very end to stand in her own strength and glory. And understand that, your body and your spirit and your heart actually were just fine. And you knew better than what you were being told. Right. And Albert, I know you don't know about this, but I do. And it's just a really good segue, because I know exactly where you're going with this. And I just want to invite Shehnaz to actually, if you feel like it, but you don't have to.
I think it's a perfect segue. So 6 weeks ago, Alberto, I was told by my doctor that based on my blood result, I have blood cancer, leukemia. And I asked her that what are the reasons, and she showed me that there were 3 parameters in my blood report that made her conclude that. And then I told her that that's impossible that I have that, but even if I have it, I'm not going to follow any traditional route. So therefore, to me, I don't want to do anything more about this, because one way or the other, I'm going to mitigate the risk, but it's not going to be the risk the way that traditional medicine recommends. And she said that, well, I want to make sure you know this, because if something happens to you in the next month and you die, then I don't want your family to come and sue me. And I said, well, my family is all in different continents. They don't live in America. They don't even speak English. So you have nothing to worry. But for the most part, it planted a seed in me that was not very good, right? Because even though I didn't accept it and I didn't think that it was right, part of me was inquisitive. That
What if? Yeah.
no, what if, because, what if she's right? Because she already kind of put that spell on me. And she said that every single person she has sent with those parameters being abnormal, they all had blood cancer and leukemia. So she was coming from her data point, which did not help my case. So what I did was that, of course, I had asked Maria and she looked at it and she basically did not. And the funny thing is she actually recommended me that I have blood cancer after your email. So when I forwarded your email to her, it made her look at it again. And that's when she wanted to say that you have blood cancer rather than saying that what you said wasn't that big of a deal. So it was opposite of what she did.
Do you know what that was? That was complete ego. Nothing but ego, forsaking your emotional and physical well-being for her ego.
Yeah, because when I forwarded her saying that my friend, and I said that even though she's not a hematologist, but she's kind of better than any hematologist because that's what she does for a living. So, and when I forwarded your email, because, it was so well written. And then from that email, she said that, after looking at your blood again, I realized you actually have blood cancer. So your email was the trigger point, which is hilarious. But anyway, so after that, I had decided that if there's a chance I do have it, I talked to all my boys. I told them that there's a chance I have it. And if I do, I'm not going to go through traditional route. My plan is I'm going to do whatever I think is right. And if it means that I die, then I'm okay with the consequences. And you guys have to be okay with it too. And of course, they were not happy about it, but they know that I'm not going to do anything different than what I want to do. So I kept following my path. Then it just so happens that we ended up talking to Dr. Robert Young for our one of our interview. And right after that, I told him to look at my blood report. And then we had a 1-hour conversation and he explained me my blood. Oh my God, Maria, the way he explained to me, I wish that is the way these guys can learn it in the school, because he explained me all the parameters and how it contributes to what happens. And based on his, and then even it had a urine pH in that blood report, he told me that you are probably more healthy than they've ever seen. So they don't know how to comprehend this. So he said that if I were you, I would not worry about it. So that happened like 3 weeks after I was told. So deep down, I knew that the probability is very low, but I wanted to just completely make sure that I complete the circle. So I did make an appointment with an oncologist, and then they actually did the blood again. And then they also sent my blood for biopsy. And they finally came back this last Friday and they said, no, you're negative. So the journey ended after 6 weeks that I don't have blood cancer. But you can just imagine that if I would have taken that script and made it a reality, I probably would have created cancer just by virtue of believing in it.
May I
And
say
the
something
quantum,
here?
The entanglement, like just your own entanglement, right? Because, like Albert's discussing with this, of course, Albert, and we'll give you the floor. Of course, what you were, coming to with this person that you're trying to help, it is a very difficult place for people to, and we're spiritual people, but somebody plants a seed and that's all it takes, right? To just kind of put you into a tornado, trying to make sure that you're being realistic and not listening to, the negative voices. So I can imagine where he's at.
For the audience, I want to highlight this moment because I'm going to be the conspiracy theorist now. The way they behave is not by chance. The people that design the medical system know very well the spiritual side of things. They understand very well the energetic side.
The designers do. Yes.
If you go to a doctor and they tell you that you have 20 days to live, a month to live, 30, 3 months, whatever, a year, you create, because you are a creator, you create the outcome. And because they're authority, we have been trained that they tell us what it is, that we don't know any better. So you could be perfectly healthy and you're going to make yourself unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes,
you're right.
absolutely.
Because the designers are evil, and then their disciples don't know any better. Some of them are just chasing, chasing the money, chasing the prestige, chasing that pedestal, and some of them are not there for the right reasons. We all know that. Some of them, we wonder where their training came from. And I'm not dissing all of them, but a good portion of them, yes. I mean, we know who their masters are. We know this.
There's two parts to it. First of all, is in this slave society, we are gauged by our productivity. The first thing we do when we meet someone in America is we ask, what do you do? I'm a doctor. Oh, you're a really productive slave. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm a lawyer. I'm a very productive, you make a lot of money. That's, because you're very productive. They're very well rewarded because it's a very important aspect of what they want to accomplish. The thing is, the medical system is essential to keep us poisoned, because the larger the society, the more intuitive we become, the more we could liberate ourselves. They don't want that. They want us to be productive, but they want us to be half sleep. So they're going to medicate us. If you display any ability or anything, like you're saying, you're hyper healthy. No, we can't have that. We're gonna start poisoning you with radiation. We're gonna start. We'll try it. Because we're not exactly sure what is it. We're gonna try every single thing. So if you weren't sick when you started, by the time you go through a year of it, you don't want to be around.
Yeah, and that's actually, I love that you brought that up, because I worked in the trenches for 20 years.
Yeah.
Literally. Yeah. I saw it. And I can't tell you guys, that my job sucked the life out of me every day, because it was a constant counseling of, I see this diagnosis, this isn't good. But a lot of people would come into my office and, well, what do you think? But tell me what what do you feel? What do you think about this? Well, I think it's never over till it's over. I don't think that you should let somebody tell you when it's time to be done. I can tell you that your mindset and your heart is going to mean everything. That's why, women who are diagnosed with something very naughty, as soon as they get into a very positive mindset, they always win. They always win, no matter what. And why is that? So, explaining that to people for, a good 15 years, it'll suck the life out of you. And then it doesn't matter how hard I would beat my head against the wall. Even now, how hard I would beat my head against the wall, even to friends and family who I know are being diagnosed post, shot with their cancers, which is inevitable, and, for many of them. But, it's beating your head against the wall to say, look, you gave allopathy an opportunity. You did. And where has it led you? Now you have cancer. Now your cancer is recurring. But you want to let them dig into you again. But here's a naturopathic solution. Here are naturopathic MDs that don't actually think that way, who are, more functional, biological, functional, and spiritual medicine type of people, where they'll work with both. Those people do exist in our society, and I wish that more people would reach out to them, because they're very good at what they do, and they treat the entire body, mind, and soul. If you have a good naturopath, that's what they do. And that's what we need right now, so I have to say this really quick, and this is also for the audience, and Shehnaz has heard me say this before, but I'm a little bit livid with the fact that our solution for these people is more radiation, which creates more DNA damage, which creates an overproliferation of the cells that are already, overproliferating and have no T cells to come in and take them out. But let's go ahead and radiate them some more to get an even bigger diagnosis. Well, we know they have cancer here, but we might find it somewhere else. I'm sorry, but your treatment should not be any different. We don't have to label the type of cancers that they have. We have to go in and create and remove the problem, that's creating it, right? So the source of energy and, parasite and, metal that's actually creating the problem, but they don't know how to treat people. So they radiate them, and then they give them chemotherapy and radiation, which how are their bodies going to respond to that? And I'm soapboxing, I know, but I can't even believe, and people will still listen to this and they walk into the fire. And they'll walk right in again.
And your immune system is compromised already, and now you're further compromising it. Right. And I have to say, because my dad, died of stage 4 mouth cancer, and the irony was that he, like when I learned about it, he already had a stage 4. And then my brother, because he was under peer pressure, they did a surgery on him that they shouldn't do on his age. But anyway, they did a 14-hour surgery. They completely did the reconstructor surgery on his face, where he looked like Frankenstein when I went to see him. And basically the whole surgery expedited his death because they completely messed it up even more. But the point of the story is that a lot of time people in peer pressure follow the traditional route because they feel like if they're taking care of loved ones and if they don't do the right thing, then people will think that you're not doing this surgery because you want to save money. But that wasn't, so that is the problem, that there's so much pressure, right? When they
See,
know.
that's fear.
Exactly.
That's
Fear
fear.
driving them to do something, and they create a bigger problem in the process, because the way you're solving your problem out of fear, how are you going to ever truly solve it? And that's why, when people say that they get cancer in one area, it shows up in another, and they say, now, you had a breast cancer, now you have a lung cancer. I'm like, it's in your body, damn it. Of course it's going to spread because your body is all connected. It's not like one part. And then that is the biggest problem, that you only do one part and you forget about everything else, but it's not the way it works. We're all connected. Every single damn thing is connected within us, around us.
Talking to the audience, one way of looking at this is in the electronics industry that I worked for many years, we use a cure. In other words, you tell people, oh, you need this, you need a TV for this, or you need a car for that, or you have this problem in your life and we're going to solve it for you. Well, what the doctors are doing is they're thinking, I need a BMW for my kid. So you come in and they're like, hey, listen, you have this problem, you got that problem. Now I'm going to sell you a solution. See, and it's all based on the fear. So yes, it's a lot of pressure. And the person is putting their trust on the doctor or whoever it is that is advising them. And I can see a lot of the nurses have the understanding that is wrong. And there's a lot of great people in the medical industry. I mean, Maria, I'm sure, you were not the only one that was in pain, listening to how this stuff worked. There's a lot of them that are well-intended. And I'll go back to how the training goes. They portray themselves as problem solvers, but they were never trained in problem solving because they never studied math. They never studied the scientific method. I mean, a lot of doctors, they don't even know how to read a scientific paper. I presented to them documents from Merck and from their own suppliers. And I've asked them, I said, in this document, it says that this was not scientifically tested. Oh, it's impossible. It's impossible because, in order to be FDA, no, I'm telling you, they're telling you here that it's not. And then they're like, well, where? Well, you find it. They have no idea. They have no idea how to look for it. And then I tell them the page. They look at the page and they still don't know. I tell them the paragraph and they read the paragraph and they still don't know how to interpret it. See, these are people that were based on memory, not on their critical ability. And that's the challenge, that when it is your health is the moment of biggest weakness for a lot of people. And then they prey on that fear. And it's not the doctor itself, it's a system. They tell you have cancer. And what an ugly word.
Well,
but
Shehnaz,
I tell you one thing that go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, just for my downloads, this is what I know from my downloads, okay? Most cancer happens because of environmental radiation. And what I mean by that is cosmic radiation. And I'll explain it this way, okay? We are constantly being bombarded by the sun and the stars, by all these little particles. And think of them like little missiles, okay? If you look at a power plant where they use nuclear power, you notice that they surround everything with water because water captures those particles really well. Guess what our body is made out of? Guess what our cells are made out of? So what happens is you have a neutron, let's say, that is coming in, and it's a very large molecule. It's coming at a huge speed, and it hits a molecule of water, and it turns it into pieces. And that shrapnel literally is going to rip that DNA into pieces. 60,000 cells in our bodies die daily. 60,000 cells could not rebuild the DNA. Could be because of nutrition or because of the vibration of the person. In other words, if you're not in a state of ease, the way the DNA copies itself, the instruction, you ask, where's the instruction? Who has the code? You have one cell that is healthy, and just like this fork is resonating to your life. This is your code. You put another cell here, and what he wants to do is be in sympathy. So the DNA from this one is going to form and is literally going to attract those minerals, those crystals from the fruits and the vegetables and the nutrition, and it's going to try to alignment. Well, we live in a world where everything, that our industrial agriculture it keeps us malnourished. You know what I mean? We also live in a world where we're constantly under fear. I mean, you have the Weather Channel now, so you can see tornadoes and hurricanes every day.
Every day.
Yeah, you got CNN who brought you live wars to your living room for the first time in history.
Yeah.
So we are in such low vibration. So this fork is very weak, and when it rebuilds, if the cell can die, and another one is created, or it can try to rebuild. In either case, when there is poor nutrition and bad resonance, not a strong enough resonance, it's going to build poorly. And this is why you can have mutations, such as you can have twins that once they get to be 60, they're not identical anymore. Their noses are a little different. Their ears are different because they've gone through, every 10 years, all your cells change, right? So that's right. It's all because of environmental. So, but what sometimes the error could cause cancer. So then you look at it, and what are the most common cancers? Well, the ones where the particles don't have to be so big that, like skin. And then you start going down, and then you say, oh, that's a very rare cancer. No, it's not. It just took that shot. It can happen. It can happen anywhere. And by the way, the way you think about it is from the moment your mom is born, her eggs are in her, right? And those eggs right there, are being, they are already exposed to that radiation. You see? So you have, from the moment mom is born, they're exposed to that radiation, then you're born, and now every minute of your life, it's like buying lottery tickets that don't expire. Every time you keep buying more lottery tickets. So the chances that at 50 or at 60, you're going to have cancer increase a lot.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But this is environmental. But it also depends on your resonance. It depends on your state. It also depends on your nutrition. You know what I mean? So very simple that, they say, it is well understood that if you eat better, more vegetables, more fruits, you're going to have a lower chance of cancer. That's because you need to replenish the right crystals, right? At the same time, you have to be in a state of ease. And, we're talking about resonance in the universe. If we stayed in our state, if we were those butterflies, we probably wouldn't get cancer. The system is designed to keep us sick because we're cattle. They'll milk us for all our productivity. We produce, they'll milk us for everything. And at the end, they'll even cut the meat and sell it, and then there's nothing left of us.
I was that person. I mean, I literally, the job sucked the life out of me, and I was just a programmed, I had all this heart, but a programmed, very well-trained robot, because, I held the belief that our cells could regenerate after any type of radiation, which sure they can, but I also didn't understand the, the extent of the poisoning. Once I started studying the water, once I started, studying the genetic manipulation of our crops, of our animals, it actually took that to, amongst other things, to really wake me up to our malnutrition. And all of that really does matter, and your mindset matters. But I was one of those very, deeply entrenched, very highly trained robots that was, if this, then that. And to the point to where if, someone didn't, get something done that, then I feared their demise because, well, you have to know. And now here I am going, no, you really don't. You absolutely don't. Because is this going to change, the way that you treat yourself or your body? Well, maybe you need that wake up call. But, once you have one answer, or once you have that fear put into you, maybe that teaches you to start paying attention, right? Like I was telling Shehnaz, are you really going to do anything different? Why even bother with this nonsense? Because, and you know what she said? Because this is an experience, and this is something I want to tie the knot, and I actually want to finish this, because then I can go ahead and hit record. And so I know that Shehnaz went through this journey and tied the knot at the end so that she could talk about it, because, you know, I don't know that we intended today's Zoom to be all about, you know, cancer or, you know, medical, but of course with, you know, with spirituality and with frequency and with how, you know, certain people are drawn to each other, it really makes sense for us to go there, you know, regardless, because we are all having this experience with somebody that we know or that we're trying to help. And then still having our own, you know, individual experiences with, you know, trying to heal ourselves. And I mean, for me, it's a daily ritual. And it's a ritual, you know, it's something that is a part of my everyday life. So Shehnaz, I'll let you wrap it up and just,
yeah, because, you know, I mean, definitely it's pretty obvious that we have so many things we want to cover and we barely scratch the surface right now. And Alberto, we're going to have to bring you again here because, you know, right now in this 1 hour that we've been speaking, it's like, wow, like, you know, like we want to make sure that we help everybody to do the best of their body, their life, and management of energy, right? The energy, the part of energy, which is pretty much more than 90% is energy, and very small, tiny part, the tip of the iceberg is the matter that we see, which is also truly not as solid as we say. So the whole idea is that we are teaching people that, you know what, you got to follow your intuition, you got to follow your heart, you got to follow your light in the right way so that you don't get compromised in any which way, whether it's anybody around you, whether it's a doctor or whoever. If they tell you something that you don't agree with, you got to follow yourself, because you're the one who's going to decide where you want to go as a free guy in the movie. Because when you do that, then the type of reality and the type of experience and the type of life you create is beyond magical. And we have all done it in our own way. And we are more than willing to shed light on this on a continuous basis. But for the time being, we're wrapping it up. And Alberto, do you have any last minute?
Yes. One last thing. Everything begins to the spiritual. All of our life, everything that is material begins with the spiritual. Then it manifests. So whether it's adolescence or whether it's cancer, whether we allow cancer, or whatever it is, it first starts with spiritual. So it isn't like we first look at things and then we consider the spiritual. No, the spiritual is the basis.
Exactly, because that's why Kabbalah, like that's what I teach actually. And it's because I love it, because it teaches you how the unmanifested becomes manifested, right? This is the most densest we are. So that's why you have so many places you can catch your error, spiritual, mental, emotional, and then it becomes physical. So it would be very good for people to say that don't deny the red flags that you get and go with it. So yes, I appreciate Alberto. Thank you for being here. Maria, do you have any last minute?
No, I'm really thankful for the conversation, because I think that it's important that people see that there's been an evolution, you know, with us, and especially, you know, with me as an individual. It's not like, you know, I was completely awake, you know, my entire life. I was that robot, you know, so I mean, I was a very productive slave.
I mean,
damn, man, you know, piss me off. I really don't like to be used. So how about I wrap up with that? I'm really pissed off about it.
But I'm glad you're a robot, and I was a robot, and I'm sure Alberto was a robot. The reason is we had to be there to not be there, so we can actually do what we're doing with other people now, because now we see the light and we have a very good perspective on it, and we're helping everybody who may be wondering whether, you know, like the iRobot movie, right? When you are like one of the that's the outlier, you're wondering that what is going on, and we want to help those people along with ourselves. So I'm grateful for this convergence, and we are going to continue this. And thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.